Who's that, Lucy? You ready? Let's go. You ready? Where are we? You know where we are. Aww, she's in her home territory, her old home.
Hey girl, are you gonna let us do this?
Lucy,
Are
would
you
you
gonna
mind
let
sitting
us
down,
do
sweet
this?
doggy? Would you mind sitting down, little girl?
You can stay, you can just not be in the frame.
Aww, or do you want to be also interviewed about your experiences in Amsterdam? So, welcome to Frogland.
Thank you. Happy to be on the show.
Yeah, well. Evelien, I wanted to talk to you, of course, because we have a long relationship, friendship here in Amsterdam, going back now probably around 5 years, I would
Yeah,
say.
so something like that.
Something like that. And later on, we'll get into how we met and,
Okay.
and how we ended up living together for
Yeah.
a couple years. Before we go over into that, I want to understand a little bit about your past and your history living here in Amsterdam
Right.
Oost, which is the east side of Amsterdam. So where in Holland are you from? Where did you grow up? Which I know is a mixed.
It's a tricky question,
It's a
huh?
tricky
Yeah.
question.
I was born in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, but not in the Netherlands itself.
Okay.
And I moved back here when I was 2 years old, and then lived in several other places throughout my childhood.
Okay.
And as an adult as well. And I've been living in Amsterdam since 8 years now in Amsterdam Oost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can imagine it's changed a lot in this area since, right?
It has. It has. Yeah. When I got here, it was still a little rough around the edges,
Mm-hmm.
And there was some, let's say, dodgy stores here and there that have now turned into hipster yoga places or nice coffee bars and so forth. So yeah, it has changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has. I mean,
Yeah.
and I've been here in Oost since it's been kind of regentrified and it's quite nice. It's one of my favorite areas in Amsterdam. It's really multicultural and it's very, maybe not as posh as some of the other areas, but it's very
Yeah.
homey and very cool.
I think
area.
right now it's just about right.
Yeah.
It's not too much gentrification still at this point, but it used to be really a little rough.
Yeah.
So now we have some nice spots. You have the park where you shouldn't go into the park, into, let's say, the deep pit.
Into the deep center of the park late at night.
Late
here.
at night,
Yeah.
you know.
Which we've done.
Yeah, which we've done, and I
Not
don't
sure
think
we can talk about what goes on
what
down
happened.
there, but yeah,
But yeah,
just be careful.
be careful, don't do it, or take a pit bull. In general, it's a really nice place to live. It's quite calm
Yeah.
compared to the city center, and also like, let's say you're done,
Probably a lot of people know in this area, Cafe Kuiper, Barbakowski, you have the OLVG Hospital,
Oh, yeah.
the East Hospital. So there's really Louis, you have really a lot of nice places. Actually, one of the places I really like in this area is the Tropen Museum?
Yeah,
over
it's
here?
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, how would you describe that as a museum? It's like a historical museum,
It's
but
it's a museum. I think mainly about our colonial times.
yeah.
So it has a lot of history of Indonesia and Suriname, and it's a beautiful building.
It is.
Yeah, and they have some exhibitions now and then, but they also have a fixed collection. So
Tell me now, Aruba, which was it's a Dutch territory.
Yeah.
But that's where you were born. But
that's
then-
where I was born. Yeah, we moved back to the Netherlands, and shortly after that, we did move back to Aruba at some point as well. I'm a little bit fuzzy on the order because I was a child, but we lived in Singapore and Spain. Then we lived a couple of years in the Netherlands, and we moved to Saudi Arabia for quite some years.
Okay.
As a young, let's say, when I arrived there, I was a child. When I left, I was a full-blown teenager, so I had a little bit of a transition there.
Okay.
In, let's say, it's a difficult country for young girls.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite an experience. So when I arrived, I was 10,
Yeah.
and I was considered a child, so I could walk around dressed however I liked.
Yeah.
So I had bare shoulders and shorts on, or well, we wouldn't have shorts on, but something appropriate, but still showing skin.
Yeah.
And
that was
yeah,
okay.
that was fine.
Yeah.
I was, but then a couple of years passed, and I also started to feel it was not okay. And I'm talking about outside the compound. Inside the compound, it's Western society. You can just do whatever you want.
So you lived like within a little enclosure.
Sure. Yeah.
Compound
Yes.
of just Westerners, only Dutch people, or also
No,
others?
Americans.
Okay.
And yeah, mainly it was a Dutch compound.
Yeah.
I lived on. It had a Dutch school on the compound, but there was also Americans and yeah, loads of nationalities. But outside the compound, I would have to wear a habaya, cover my hair at some point. But that, of course, happened slowly. So let's say I first started to feel a little naked. Okay. My dad was concerned and told me to wear the habaya, which, of course, I resented him for that a little bit, you know. In hindsight, I really respect that. My parents, they respected the Saudi Arabian culture so much, and they felt, even though we don't necessarily agree with that way of life, we have to adapt to it.
Because you're in there.
We're there,
culture.
You know, exactly. Yeah. So, but I, as a young teenager, of course, thought it was ridiculous, and I was watching all these American TV shows, and women dressed very nice, and then, so I was. Yeah, I had a hard time with that, let's say.
Okay. Yeah.
When I came back to the Netherlands, of course, then you see all the nice things you had, you know. We had an amazing compound with, you name it, all the facilities like swimming pool, a tennis court, even a cricket field, you know. Very, very nice. Our classrooms, the education was very good. Classrooms were very small. And we had a lot of nice, you know, a nice science lab, for example. And then we came back here and it was dark weather, kind of depressing.
Dutch cold.
That's when you get a reality check, you know.
Yeah. So how many years total in Saudi Arabia was it?
5, I believe. Yeah.
5, and you were, what would you say, like 10 or 11 till?
10 till 15.
10 till 15, and that's a pretty pivotal time.
It was,
for a kid.
But as a kid, you come into a new place and you feel shy. You feel somewhat ashamed of nothing, but I don't know.
Exposed.
Exposed, exactly. Yeah. You feel everyone's looking at you, and I had to do that quite often as a kid. That's the one side. The thing you also went through. Next to that, there's the teenage years in Saudi Arabia as a girl.
Absolutely.
Was tough. It really was tough. You know, you would hear stories about. Let's not get into it, but like what Saudi boys would do to their younger sisters. Nothing too bad, but just they were the boss of their sisters, you know, and it made me feel very, very angry. And I also saw my little brother having some privileges that I did not, and it just
because he didn't have to change his outfit, right? So
no, and he could go wherever he wanted, like
outside the compound too.
There was places in Saudi Arabia where, as a woman, you're just not allowed to go.
Okay, like what?
Like restaurants. If they don't have a family section, it's only for men. So but you have to imagine like a restaurant, it looks like there's a normal section, which looks like just like here with tables out
like
in the open.
It's almost like the smoking section versus the non-smoking.
Well, then you have the family section where tables, and then there's curtains between all those tables, so women can take off their dress and eat while having their face exposed. And besides that, for instance, if I would go shopping for clothes, there wouldn't be a dressing room that you couldn't try them on as a woman. Only men. You just take it and bring it back, whatever doesn't fit. So
I wonder how much of that stuff has changed these days. You know,
I wonder too.
Modernizing to some extent. But
they have opened up for tourism. So back when I lived there, it was, I think, the only country in the world where women couldn't drive.
Right.
And it was closed for tourism. Like you just if you applied for a visa for tourism, they just like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
You can come if you want to work here, and then it's a massive hassle to get in. But also you need to apply for a visa to get out of Saudi Arabia. So
that was back then, or
back then? Yeah, back then. You can't just leave. You need to apply to leave. So basically what a lot of my father's colleagues would do was continuously apply for those leave visa, exit re-entry visas, as they called them, so that whenever something happened back home, they would be able to leave.
They're just trying to have a visa ready on the side.
Just exactly.
They can pull it. That's a little kind of claustrophobic
Weird,
feeling,
right?
right? That you're like, okay, I need to leave, but I can't.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, but I'm thankful for it in the end, although I wasn't always very happy about it in the moment.
Yeah? Do you and your brother ever talk about it? Like, think back again? You say to him, hey, I was really annoyed that you didn't have to wear these clothes. And
I was never annoyed with him.
Yeah, right.
I really took it out on my parents because I felt they were deciding, they were telling me to do, because they were, well, actually, you would also have, if you're not I would always have my headscarf in my neck as a sort of scarf, normal, and then cover my hair if there was someone you have religious police walking around, and they will ask you to cover your hair if they see you without a headscarf. But it was mainly my parents telling me to cover my hair, and I felt that was just...
They're just the messengers.
Ridiculous. Yeah, they were just... I see that now.
Yeah.
But I was not, reasonable back then.
No.
Plus, I mean, it was also not my choice to live there,
Of course, of course. Yeah. No, you got dragged around a lot. No,
I did. I did, but I'm so thankful for that as an adult.
Yeah. Because you had to do that a lot as a kid, that you struggled as a kid. Now it's a little easier for you as an adult maybe to go from culture or job or situation, right? You can adapt to change maybe a little easier.
Yeah.
So that's good. And just a quick question, like you said, religious police. Are they actually called religious police?
They're called Mutsaba.
Mutsaba.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
They're the religious police to make sure
that's
that
not your
everyone
interpretation of calling it religious police. It's pretty.
It's not my interpretation. That's what we all called it.
That's what everybody called it, right?
Maybe if you ask a Saudi, they will tell you a bit more of a nuanced story.
Sure.
But that's how we Westerners.
Yeah, in practice.
Exactly.
That concept of a religious police, or acting like that is really bizarre, and I think I'm thankful for the.
For being a boy.
No. I'm thankful for the separation of church and state, which is something that you see being fought over in America, at least, where, America is actually not a Christian democracy or other faith-based country. It's a country based on having the ability to practice whatever religion you want and not impose it or require it, and it's not founded in it.
Yeah, right.
So the whole idea of a religious police is a scary thing.
Yeah, it's something we can't really comprehend.
No. So Saudi Arabia, you're 15 or so. What happened then? Yeah.
Well, we came back to the Netherlands because my mother wanted us to have some stability for our education from that point on. My father still went to live in Germany at that point, but we stayed here.
Okay.
So I finished high school, did my studies, and then I moved to Belgium for my first job.
Where did you guys move back to? Because we're in Amsterdam here in the Oost, as we said, but...
to Huizen. It's like 30 minutes from here.
Okay, so you came back, lived in Huizen, finished school.
Yeah.
Went to university in Amsterdam?
I went to Utrecht.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And once I got my degree, I moved to Belgium.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did you study?
Chemical engineering. Really loved studying engineering, chemical engineering, but once I got a job at P&G in Belgium, I thought all the technical stuff was way too... It was complex, but I also realized I like working with people more. So I went more towards the organizational supply chain.
You and I had a very similar first few years of our career, actually, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Unilever, Procter &
P&G.
Gamble, let's call it Dutch.
The Dutch consumer goods company in America, and you worked for the American consumer
goods company.
How was it
to work for a Dutch company?
Oh, so bad. It's terrible. No, it was good. It's
high morale.
Hey, great targets, great fragrances.
Target setting. You need a balanced
We're gonna have to take that offline and do a deep dive on that. Get some quick wins towards our growth.
Let's do a pressure cooker.
Yeah. Now we're getting into our consulting time. If I may.
Yeah.
Belgium and the Netherlands and Luxembourg, and maybe even a little more territory, all used to be part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, right?
Yeah, true.
So Belgium...
Really back in the day. Actually, the first university in the Kingdom of the Netherlands was in Leuven, which is now Belgium.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was what, like 1600s
I have
or something?
no idea. You'd have to look it up.
You don't know your own history?
No.
Come on.
Sorry, it's Belgium.
Belgian. How do Belgian people differ from Dutch people?
Well, let's say Dutch people are a little more outgoing.
Yeah.
Belgians are a little more reserved at first.
Yeah.
But I do find that so it took me a while, it took me a little time to make friends in Belgium. Mm-hmm. But I do find that once you have a Belgian friend, mm-hmm. they are your friend for life. Much more so than with Dutch. Dutch people are easier to, if you meet someone and you get on, to say a bunch of stuff like, okay, we'll grab dinner, we're going to do this and that, and then never do it. With Belgians, it takes really a long time for them to get to that point, but they will mean it, you know.
Okay, harder to break into, but once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Here, easy to break into, but doesn't really.
But it doesn't really mean anything.
On.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I really adore the Flemish. They're really, really nice. Still have some really good friends there. Although it was also tough working there as a young Dutch girl in a factory, really deep into the Flemish culture. And so as we said, the Dutch are more direct, and that was a little bit difficult for me. Because you have to read between the lines a little more with the Flemish, with the Belgians. That was quite tough in the beginning, and I think I was a bit. I didn't really adjust myself well to their culture in the beginning. I was too abrupt and direct.
Yeah. Okay. And you need to kind of soften your way to have them tell you.
Exactly.
I don't know how much you remember from when we met. And I want to hear your side as well, but I met you for the very first time
right over there
in your living room.
Yeah.
With all my stuff. I had moved into your house and I hadn't met you yet.
Yeah, I left you the key at Kuiper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
how did that happen?
So I had moved to the Netherlands in July of 2017, right? And I had Lucy. I had moved with a partner of mine from the U.S. that ultimately we broke up 7 months after living here in Amsterdam. And I took another assignment with the company, which required me to go to Ireland, near Dublin, 5 days a week. So because I was with Lucy, I just asked my boss if I could move to Ireland and get an apartment there instead of flying back and forth.
Sure.
So I moved out of my apartment, my first one in Amsterdam, in a different place, and I moved to Ireland for 4 months.
Yeah.
And when I came back,
you needed to arrange housing.
Yeah, I was looking for a place, which is notoriously difficult to find. Texted the WhatsApp group of our colleagues, and I said, "Hey, does anybody have an apartment or somebody, a room that I can crash in?" And nobody really said anything except for this one person.
I did.
Evelien.
I had joined the team whilst you were in Ireland.
Yeah.
And we hadn't even met.
Yeah.
And I got this message, and at that moment, Beatrice was living here. So I was kind of. Yeah, I liked having a roommate. And I saw your message and I told you, listen, I don't have, I don't know anyone or anything, but I do have a spare room. So if you're really in a pinch, let me know and I can help you out temporarily.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. Maybe, no, that's okay. I'll find something.
Yeah, you were modest. And then, so you thanked me and all good, and
then I didn't find anything.
You didn't find anything.
So I crawled back and said, "Hey."
No, you didn't. You didn't crawl back. I texted you again, like, "Hey, how's the search going?" And to just let you know that really, like, it's all right. It really to tell you once again that it was not just a one-off,
It wasn't like a Dutch superficial bullshit invite.
No, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then I think we called for a while, and you told me like, oh, well, I have a dog. I don't know if that's a problem, and I was like, no, it's absolutely no issue at all.
Just a small dog.
Just a little, she takes up half the apartment, but your arrival was quite special as well because I had to go. You were delayed,
weren't home.
Or I wasn't home.
Yeah.
You were supposed to arrive the day earlier. but
exactly. Yeah, so
somehow.
somehow I was at the because I lived in Ireland by myself for those 4 months, and I had Lucy, and I had all my whole life with me, which was like 3 or 4 bags, suitcases.
Yeah.
And I had gotten to the airport to go on my flight from Dublin to Amsterdam, and I didn't do something correctly with Lucy. I didn't check something with her in time, that I ended up missing my flight, and I was like, oh my God. So I had nowhere to go back to in Ireland. I had no home to return to and come back to the airport. So
You
I
stayed
had
at
all
the
this
airport.
stuff, so I just stayed at the airport. And I remember I slept at the McDonald's, like on the booth, and like had all my bags, because I was like, well, I got a new flight at 8 or 9 in the next morning.
Yeah.
I might as well just stay here. And I remember like asking people in the airport, like, hey, can you watch my bags while I go walk my dog outside?
Oh gosh.
And I got to Amsterdam the next morning. I made it here. And you know, they don't really show where the dogs pop out, where the animals come.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, hi, where can I get my dog that was flown on the plane? You know, under the plane. And
I would be so scared.
I ended up finding the same place that looked like where she came out when I first moved here. So I'm waiting with all my bags, and I have one piece of odd-sized luggage besides Lucy that I needed to pick up. And so now I have Lucy, I have all my luggage, and I'm waiting for this one piece. And I'm like, hello, I really need to go outside because she's about to probably explode here. So I was like trying to ask people, like, where can I get this stuff? I need to get outside. So I got all my stuff. I'm ready to go. Start walking outside. Right in the busy exit, Lucy takes a giant dump. Right where
In the airport.
In the airport, in the exit, where
She
everyone's
does
walking
that.
with all their luggage. And then I was like, oh man, and my arms are so full of everything. And then I was just like asking strangers, some lady who was nice and was like, here, I'll hold your dog while you pick up the shit in the airport. So
Yeah.
then eventually get out of the airport, make my way over to Cafe Kuiper here in Oost.
Where I had left you the key because I thought you would arrive the day earlier, or we were planning for
Exactly.
you to arrive the day earlier.
Yeah.
And I had to go to a brunch. So I left you the key at Cafe Kuiper with instructions on how to get in and which room was yours.
Yeah.
So when I arrived home afterwards, I found you in my place.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we
That
met.
was it.
Yeah.
I was only gonna stay until I could find a new apartment,
Happened.
and then it was like a little shy of 2 years. A
Yeah,
couple months
I think
shy
so.
of 2
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And that was pre-COVID.
It was
course.
right before COVID. Yeah.
Wow.
That you left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
2019.
2019. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's like chapter 2
Oh my God.
of my Amsterdam time here. Well, it's been so fun, to really serendipitously, randomly kind of come across
Yeah.
to meet you, and then to have you become one of my dearest friends. I really mean
Likewise,
that, seriously.
yes.
And then through you, I've also met a number of new friends and different people, which
Yeah.
is one of the greatest parts about I think the Amsterdam culture. I want to talk to you about something that is maybe like a sensitive topic for people, but I thought it was actually pretty striking for me to learn about this. And from my perspective, so what happened was, this was a couple years ago, right? I'd already moved out of living here,
Yeah.
but you sent me a picture of this kind of sweet old lady walking down the street with her walker, like at 9 in the morning or something. I was like, cool. And then you sent me another picture, like at 4 o'clock that same day, without any description of what seemed to be a casket rolling down the hallway
And she
here
had died.
in your apartment.
Yeah.
And she had passed away. And without any context, I was like, what?
To
What
be
is this?
fair, I did, it was, well, okay, it
Yeah.
was an ordeal.
It
So she decided that her life was complete and she had euthanasia.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was there, I was present during her death together with my other neighbor. And yeah, it made an incredible impression, just the fact that, me and her went to get cookies at 10:30 and 2 o'clock her body was wheeled out of here.
Yeah.
And I sent you the 2 pictures saying, like, isn't this incredible, like insane, just surreal.
It is surreal. And I mean, another way to say this is like assisted suicide, right?
Yeah,
Is that another way
assisted death.
assisted death? Assisted
yeah.
death is maybe a little better.
Yeah.
So how does that work here? Because I don't know to what extent this is legal or a thing in America right now. I know in a lot of different cultures there's just something that's coming up more and more. So it's something I wanted to talk about with you about how it is here in Dutch society, where you can elect if under certain conditions, which
under
you'll tell me
certain
about.
conditions, and you also have to really follow a procedure. They have to approve it.
Who does?
A doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your own doctor. You have another doctor that can objectively assess the situation and approve your request.
Yeah.
The two conditions are you have to be terminally ill.
Right.
So there's no chance of recovery whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you have to be suffering and in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened with my old neighbor, she had dementia.
Mm-hmm.
So she applied for the euthanasia, and it was quite. She was really, really lucky to get it, because you have to also, when you do the application, you have to be of sound mind.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that's very tricky with dementia.
To prove that you're of sound mind.
To and be able to say, like, I'm suffering from this and be of sound mind. So there's a very little window in which she could get her euthanasia application approved.
Okay, right.
But she did it, and it was a really surreal day.
Yeah.
First of all, we got there in the morning, and I thought I was just going to go say goodbye. And there was a little note on the door saying, "Welcome to the day of great joy." For me, she was really
celebrating it.
She was really celebrating it, and she had invited all of her friends and some other neighbors. Her cleaning lady was there, and I thought I was just going to go say goodbye, but she
invited you in for it.
Well, she invited me in, and then she said I need to go get cookies. So that's how she was like, I'm going to go get cookies, and I was like, what? It's so bizarre. So I'll go with you to get the cookies. And we were, we were chatting. We went to get the cookies. She got like way too many cookies. And then we came back. The rest of her friends arrived. The doctor arrived. And it was all very peaceful with a lot of people there. And that's exactly how she wanted. She went dancing into her bedroom to lie down for it to happen.
Wow. What a positive attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, it was also she's suffering too,
Yeah.
right? And she's in this condition.
She
that's
really
causing
wanted
a lot of
it.
Harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because her mother also had dementia, and she didn't have the option. So she went. She was in a home until she died a natural death, and my neighbor experienced that, and she probably decided then and there, like, this is not what I want for myself.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the fact that a society allows for that option under certain rigorous conditions, right? Because it's a choice to just look the other way and say, hey, people, we're not going to intervene or give people an option, and you're just going to suffer for the rest of your life, right?
I think that's cruel.
And you told me too, like, you think, and I agree, it's important that there's like a threshold that you have to pass to get this. And tell me why you thought about that.
Thought about what?
Or you were mentioning to me once is like it should also not be too easy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like, let's say now, I don't know right now if it's on the agenda, but like our previous election, our most progressive party brought up the topic of, besides euthanasia, this completed life. And by that they mean if you're over 70 or 75, even if you're not suffering, even if you're not sick, you can have the choice to say, my life is complete. It's,
gotcha.
It's,
so making
I don't
it easier
want to.
in a sense. You don't have these threshold conditions of I have to suffer.
No conditions at all. No conditions. It's your own free will and no one else's.
Right.
And whilst I do believe that it, I completely 100% support the personal choice. It should be a personal choice.
Yeah.
I think it is a little tricky.
Yeah.
There's some things that you have to think about, like, you wouldn't want older people to feel like a nuisance to
Yeah.
the society
Right.
because they have this option like, what are you still doing here, costing us money?
Yeah.
You know.
That's the downside.
Exactly. I think I support the idea. I will eventually support the idea, but I'm not ready for it yet. And I think we have to really carefully think about all the tricky parts of it. Let's say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's a really important point that you make of, right? People don't want to feel like, well, okay, now I've reached this age, I'm burdening society,
Yeah.
and now I feel like people are looking at me like, hey, get out of
Hey,
here.
you know, you have a home that is desperately needed by young people.
Of course.
You know,
Then
yeah.
you're looked at more of like as a widget
Plus,
than
let's
a person.
say like a hypothetical situation. You have two siblings, and one doesn't have a lot of money, and the other one, well, maybe just one of the siblings doesn't have a lot of money, and the parent is old, still there, and has quite some wealth. Then it would be, you know, it would be possible for the parent to feel like, okay, you know what, maybe I should pass away so I can help out my children. And maybe in some situations even kids would pressure or kind of manipulate their parents into saying like, hey, are you, you know, is it not time for you to peacefully go?
Yeah.
So I don't know about it, but I do know that if people are, you know, terminally ill and suffering, to not give them the option of euthanasia, my personal opinion is that's cruel.
Yeah.
It's just cruel. Why would you have them live for another few months and suffer horribly?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know I don't understand the discussion. So
well, it's a nuanced discussion, and I think it's worth having, right? Because if you just simply say like, no, this is not what we're going to do, then you're going to cause suffering, and if you're too open about it, then you're going to cause these maybe other side effect pressures that are going to happen. So
not to say that I will not be open for the completed life thing in the future. I just want to see how we're going to deal with it specifically to avoid the situations we just talked about. Because maybe it's also something that takes a little getting used to. I bet when euthanasia first was, you know, people were shocked and horrified and thought like, yeah, but it just doesn't feel right. So maybe it's something you have to get used to as well. Yeah,
you're kind of gradually getting used to each step of it, and then you kind of adjust as you go, right? And I just want to relate this to a similar topic, actually, that my partner did her thesis on and that have worked on, which is DNR, do not resuscitate.
Okay.
It's kind of related in that, you know, people have the ability to elect a decision when they're in the hospital that under certain circumstances, if you need resuscitating, you need to indicate resuscitate or do not resuscitate. And if you don't indicate what you want, they're going to do everything they can to bring you back, which you might think, of course they should, I want you to bring me back. But in the case of certain people who are elderly or frail, etc., if they aren't informed about what they need to indicate, or if they just put resuscitate, you know, when they go to resuscitate the person, they could break ribs, they can injure their body, and then they survived, but now they're in a
even
really worse off state.
Exactly, whilst naturally they would have died.
Exactly, so there's a fine balance in these types of life and death things.
They're very tricky, and I think all these topics, it's just, you can't really have a black and white opinion about them,
exactly
right?
Exactly that.
It's a massive gray zone, and it's very tricky.
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards the personal choice. It's your choice with some boundaries around how it is.
At least if you're terminally ill and suffering. Like if you're terminally ill, you know, your life is going to end anyway.
Yeah.
Why would someone else decide for you that you have to live on and suffer? It is incredibly cruel.
Yeah, no,
you need to make that decision yourself. So I'm happy
absolutely.
we agree.
We agree.
Yeah,
we agree on something.
Finally. You know, the way my neighbor dealt with the whole situation really I really respect her for it. Like we usually celebrate when lives begin, you know, when babies are born.
Yeah.
But she really made a celebration out of her
And
last
she did
day
it with
on Earth.
people, right?
And with the people she loved.
Absolutely. And I really love the part of the story where we don't have cookies.
We don't have
We
enough
need to go get
cookies for my party.
That was the picture of her, right, on the walker with you going to get cookies, and that was important to her. So I think that's a special, and I'm glad she was able to have.
What she wanted. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was weird though, and we miss her, of course, but
bizarre. So who is this?
I don't know, but it smells.
Oh yeah.
You smell so bad.
Hi.
You smell
I'm the
so
executive
bad.
producer.
She's so cute.
Hi, I'm here to check your sound.
Close off in a nice way, like thank me.
No.
All right.